Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining. It's really nice to see so much interest, uh, even from within HEET. So much interest from within HEET internally. It's wonderful. Uh, anyway, thanks for joining. So we're going to be talking about significant environmental impact leaks. Once I've got my okay, so HEET's mission, just to give you some background, HEET's mission is ultimately to cut carbon emissions. And one of the ways we're working on reducing carbon emissions is through cutting natural gas leaks as much as we can. And there's a number of problems with gas leaks that makes this a good fit for us. In Boston, we have some really old gas pipes. This is actually a close-up map from a National Grid gas pipe pressure map. And you can see that these are some pretty old pipes. We're looking at a couple of pipes there from 1860 and 1882, so dating back to President Lincoln, if I got my history right. So that's some pretty old pipes. Here's a map of Worcester at the end of Worcester, sorry, at the end of 2019 in Worcester. This is Eversource territory. There were reported to be from Eversource just under 660 unrepaired leaks. And as you probably know, natural gas is mostly composed of methane. And so these old pipes are leaking methane, which is a greenhouse gas. And that greenhouse gas is, just over 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide over the first 20 years in the atmosphere. So if carbon dioxide acts like a blanket on the Earth, warming it, then the same amount of methane is like, you could consider it to be 86 blankets warming our Earth. So another obvious problem with gas is that it's explosive. So here's a picture of the terrible Merrimack Valley gas disaster in 2018. And it's strange that we're just piping in this explosive gas into our houses and burning it. Another problem with gas is, or natural gas leaks, is that we're killing, it kills trees and other plant life. These plants and trees breathe oxygen through the roots, and gas is displacing that and suffocates those trees. And then gas customers are paying for the lost leaks through these leaks, lost gas. We're paying for that. If you're a gas customer, you'll be paying for the lost leak gas. That's charged to customers. And I think, if I understand right, it increases the therm cost directly. So every year, the gas utilities are driving around the territories looking for leaks. In this picture, in the front there, you'll see these little tubes, and those are intake sensors for looking for gas. The guy in the picture is holding what's called a CGI, or combustible gas indicator. So they also walk part of their territory every year. And yeah, you get bonus points if you recognize that looks like a German registration plate. But we do this in Massachusetts too. I don't know why there's a picture of a German car in this slide deck, but anyway, just this does, Eversource, National Grid, all the gas companies here are doing this. So to sort of give a sense of the scale of this problem, gas leaks are widespread in Massachusetts. And each year the gas utilities are required to report about these gas leaks. And this map you're looking at is actually a new map that we're working on. This is a map of all of the repaired and unrepaired leaks across Massachusetts, across the 6 largest utilities here. And at the end of last year, there were reported, almost 16,000 unrepaired leaks. And at the end of last year, there were reported to be about 11,500 repaired leaks. So you get the sense that, my understanding is that the gas companies are not able to keep up with repairing these leaks as quickly as they're occurring in the infrastructure. Now, all of that leaked gas is equivalent to the emissions of all of the state's stores and businesses combined. So, it's a significant amount of gas that's been leaked. So HEET has taken the data over the years and from these reports and map them. And we just released our maps a few weeks ago, and we have over 250 towns mapped there, and including historical data. So if you're in a town and you want to see where there are leaks near you, or what the history of leaks is over the last 4 or 5 years, you can use our maps. You can go to squeakyleak.org, or you can go to heetma.org and look under the gas leaks section. So this is a map of Arlington, for example, and at the end of last year, we had 259 unrepaired leaks in Arlington. So how to try and address this problem for heat? In 2016, some research came out that showed that the largest 7% of a set of leaks emit half of the emissions, and we call these super-emitting leaks. So we figured if we can address the largest 7%, we could cut those leak emissions in half. So for example, if you had 100 leaks, which together emitted, let's say, 1,000 tons of carbon dioxide, then the largest 7 of those leaks would be emitting about 500 of the 1,000 tons. And here's a video, which, and if you can see that, that's actually infrared imaging of gas leaking out of a manhole cover, which is always kind of interesting to see. I don't know if that's actually coming across on the Zoom call here, but anyway. So, so we got these super emitters. We also call them significant environmental impact leaks when that got into law. So the law in 2016 was passed that said that those large leaks, they have to be repaired. The question was, how to identify these large leaks. There was no proven method for identifying them. So Zainab at HEET, who's kindly here with us today, she did a study working with National Grid, Columbia, and Eversource to determine a good proven identification method to find the super-emitting leaks. And out of that research, together with Gas Safety Inc., we end up with something called leak extent method. And that study showed that the extent or the footprint size of the leak is an excellent proxy. It correlates highly with the actual gas emissions coming out of that leak. And so leaks in that study of 2,000 square foot or more captured about half of the emissions. And I believe that was about 10% of those leaks, the top 10%. So you can think of gas leaking underground, pushing its way further out through the ground. And if it goes past 2,000 square feet, it's regarded as a significant environmental impact leak. Now in this picture, we've got an oval, but typically it's actually a rectangle that we measure, not an oval. So sorry about that. So also, all of this work led into a shared action, what was called the Shared Action Plan, which was a 5-year plan where HEET, Mothers Out Front, together with the gas utilities, put together this plan, submitted it to the DPU, I think it was, covering a number of areas. We'll use leak extent method to identify significant environmental impact leaks. I'm just going to call them SEIs just for short. We'll repair these leaks within well-defined times. And for example, if you've got an SEI that's over 10,000 square feet, it now needs to be repaired within 12 months. If it's between 2,000 and 10,000, we've got 2 years. And also part of that, part of the regulations that came out of that, interestingly, said that all grade 3s existing on January the 1st of 2018 must be repaired or eliminated within 8 years. So that's pretty huge. And part of HEET's role is verification. So we are kind of like a watchdog. We'll work with the gas companies to get random selections of their SEIs and verify that they're using the method correctly and that they're finding them properly. And part of that shared action plan was also to increase reporting, which we're seeing happening. And this reassessment for the next 5 years, where we take the data we gather, see if we can refine the protocol. We're ongoing. We're just finished year 1, so we're going into year 2 now. Okay, so the first year of enacting or doing this shared action plan was 2018. That was supposed to be the first year, but because of Merrimack Valley and because of the National Grid union lockout, we got some data. We didn't get all the data we wanted, so we called this the trial year. And in summary, we found that Eversource and Columbia Gas were able to consistently use leak extent method to identify SEIs in the field. So that's awesome. We're starting to see adoption and use of this. We did find some under-identification of some of these large leaks, potentially because the companies were getting up to speed, they're starting to learn how to use it. And we also found that leak repairs were not always successful. So about a third of the time, they were not fixed. They were worse, actually, in terms of extent. A third of the time, they were fixed. And the other third of the time, they were improved but not fixed. So, you know, definitely we'll keep gathering that data, see how that works out for the next couple of years too. So I wanted to share with you some of the findings from the most recent year, the first year, 2019's year one of shared action plan work out in the field. So we just presented this to the 3 gas companies about a week ago. So this hasn't got a full report around it yet, but we wanted to get their input before we do that. So here's some kind of high-level findings. So first of all, generally an increase in the adoption of leak extent method, which is fantastic. That's something to really celebrate, I think. We're really seeing it getting adopted, especially with National Grid. You know, they're really starting to take it on and use it. And they have the majority of the infrastructure and leaks that, from what we've seen in Massachusetts. And that was you know, partly, again, because of National Grid. They shared a lot of data with us. So we actually had over 10 times data sharing compared to the year before. So that was pretty helpful for us. For National Grid, I'm just going to break it down by each company and summarize what we found for each of them, just really briefly. It's just one slide on each. So National Grid, so they reported about a quarter of their grade 3 leaks they surveyed in 2019, reportedly using leak extent method, to be significant environmental impact leaks. So we went out and surveyed 124 of their largest ones and verified about half of them as being SEIs. We also found that of the ones we were looking at, there was about a 5 times extent over measurement. So they're way over measuring. There's a number of reasons that could be. When if we say that, okay, they're reporting about a quarter of their grade 3s are SEIs, and we're finding about half of them are actually what we regard as SEIs, then, you know, maybe I'm calling it the possible actual SEIs number is maybe around 12% for this set of data. And that could be because, you know, maybe National Grid has more leaks and has more leak-prone infrastructure. You know, we were expecting like somewhere between 7 to 10%. So they've got a bit more. Again, this is all within that small sample, so just keep that in mind. For Columbia Gas, they reported only 4% of their grade 3s that they surveyed in 2019 to be SEIs. And you know, we surveyed a batch of those and verified actually that only about a third of the time they were actually verified SEIs based on our use of the leak extent method. And we also found that they seem to also be over measuring by about 2 times. And so again, maybe we can say that their actual SEI fine rate, if you like, is about 1%. So much lower than the expected, somewhere between 7 and 10%. So much lower than that. Again, based on samples, so, you know, let's keep that in mind. feel like, you know, they may be low because possibly they've fixed a lot of SCIs over the last few years, and now we need to start considering adapting or changing in some way this 2,000 square foot threshold. So we started discussing that with them in the presentation. So that's something we're going to keep thinking about. And for Eversource, they reported just around 2%. So similar story to Columbia. We didn't actually survey any because they'd been fixed before we could get to them. And, you know, they have been working on their backlog of SCIs also over the last few years. So we feel like that might be the same kind of situation where we might want to adapt the thresholds to capture all of the SCIs. So in summary, in terms of, you know, where do we find SCIs to be occurring? We found them mostly to be occurring on 4-inch high pressure steel pipe that's roughly 60 to 70 years old. And again, this is based on an even smaller sample. So we're still working with the gas companies to get more pipe data like pressure and age and things like that. And that can be a process. By the way, I just want to interject, we don't accept any money from the gas companies for any of this work. There's no funding coming from them. Okay, so in total summary, you know, we saw an adoption increase in the use of leak extent method. We saw a much bigger increase in data sharing and flux bar use and adoption. That's a device we use in the field for measuring the actual emissions. But I think that leak extent method training could really improve these utilities' ability to find and measure the SEIs. And we also think that, you know, leak populations that they're using or measuring from are changing. So we want to explore these adaptive thresholds. And again, you know, we need more data to improve our understanding of where they're most likely to occur. So for this coming year, we want to continue this work, continue this verification work. And I'd really like to explore the idea of these adaptive thresholds and, you know, hopefully keep them improving how they're using leak extent method and keep improving our analysis of where they're likely to occur. Another piece of this puzzle is, you know, I'm engaged on a government-funded project that's studying how these types of leaks evolve over time and what their safety profile looks like. And then something that a lot of people have been asking for is SEI mapping. So hope to get some of that coming out soon on our website. And then there's also the multi-town initiative work, where we're working with gas companies to, well, I'll leave that to Audrey and Zainab to talk a bit more about that if anybody has questions. And then it's also, hopefully we can revise these things called emissions factors, which are used in calculations of estimating how much gas is leaked, what its impact is, that kind of thing. So we're working on a lot of things this year. I want to keep this short and have it mostly open to discussion. So that's it. Thank you for listening.